Welcome to Health, Social, Educational, and Environmental Committee meeting. Please stand for the pledge. Legislator Elmer, can you lead us?
My pleasure.
Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Legislator Elner,
Here.
Legislator Russo,
Here.
Chairwoman Adamizio,
Here. Moving on to number 3 is the acceptance of minutes from December 31st, 2024 and February 12th, 2025. Have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 4 is discussion. This evening we have an update on the TNR, which is Trap, Neuter, Return Program. And I had asked Director Lisa Yurko from Putnam Advocates to come this evening. And I've received several phone calls from some of my constituents, and there is a problem with the feral cat community. And even people move away, and they were feeding the cats, and then they leave the cats at the same premises, and of course, they can't bring them.
Yep.
So there has been some issues with that. So why don't you come forward and you can speak on this evening.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Well, I guess first I was going to speak a little bit about the possibility of setting up a spay-neuter program for the van. So essentially,
Just so everyone knows, we do have a spay-neuter program at the present time.
yes,
And what is allocated, is it $3,500 a year?
$3,600 a year.
Right.
And then-
I think it's 35.
Oh, 35, I'm sorry.
So
And
$3,500 a year. And is there a problem finding veterinarians that want to do this for that price? Is that?
we have 2 vets that currently, Carmel Animal Hospital, and we have Woodland Place Animal Hospital. But yeah, it's difficult. I mean, they only have so much capacity that they're willing to give us. And like last year, we had to end up going out and like sourcing other vets. So last year, we ended up going through the SPCA in Briarcliff and utilizing the Taravan, and then PAW, which is Putnam Animal Wellness. Dr. Orban operates out of Brewster. It's in the pet, I don't know what the name of it's called anymore.
On 22? Is it
over by the
It's
ice
right,
hockey rink?
right,
Guardian?
it's next to,
Oh,
no, it's next
no.
to Marshall's by Home Depot.
Oh,
Is it just Animal Kingdom or
Yeah,
Pet,
Yeah,
whatever
they've
that used
changed
to be?
names a bunch of times,
Yes.
but the clinic itself that he operates is called Putnam Animal Wellness. But he has a partner and they don't have capacity there, but Dr. Orban has started a brick and mortar up in Poughkeepsie. So he's been good enough to give us appointments, but it's a 4-hour journey. It's an hour up, an hour back, and then drop off and pick up in the same day. So last year in 2024, we ended up, just to take a step back, our busiest time is in the fall. As soon as you start getting a freezing night, we suddenly get calls out of the woodwork that I've been feeding cats for months and, you know, there's no shelter, there's no this or there's no that. And then we step in and we help. Last year in the fall was when we really started experiencing the crunch with the vets. And we had to ultimately 33, which is roughly of our numbers of 2024, we did 168 cats that we TNR'd last year. 33 of them we ended up having to bring up there to to get service. And this year in 2025, in the beginning of the year, we had been working on several large colonies that we started. In 2025, thus far, we've done 76 cats, and 43 of those were brought up to Poughkeepsie to be spay and neutered. So, there's just a need in Putnam County, and Dr. Orban has a van, so he and I have been discussing the possibility of starting like a biannual spay-neuter program where he'd bring the van in and provide services to residents at a reduced price. We don't, I've spoken to him loosely on this, so far he was saying like $75 per cat roughly would be the cost to offer residents. And I mean, I don't know what his break even is. I've been kind of trying to get to him about that.
Would
And
will the residents be willing to pay the price? Because sometimes they don't have the money and they.
so, well, that leads into another thing.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean, to get a cat spay and neutered at a regular vet around here, you're looking at a cost of $500 to $600 when all is said and done. A cost that a lot of residents just, they simply can't afford it. And then they don't spay and neuter the cat, and then the cat gets out and gets pregnant, and then you have, you know, the situation where you have unwanted cats.
No, I don't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to, thinking about that, if that were to be done, how did we know, like, people could just bring their cats there to be?
People could bring their cats
$75.
for $75.
Right.
I mean, obviously,
Right.
I want it to be service to Putnam County residents first. And then, but it's something that I'm willing to donate my time to because it's something I really believe in. And, you know, having been doing this, I mean, the program started in 2012. And then we became incorporated advocates in 2016. So it's almost 10 years now that I've been doing this, like operating within my own 501c3. Over, just so you guys know, we were looking at our numbers. Since the inception of the program, we've done 2,321 cats, which is pretty impressive, and adopted out 629 of those. So we have a really good track record, and you know, we operate essentially on a shoestring budget. We're under $20,000 a year. Our total, I think last year we took in about 15,000, and we ran the program in its entirety, not including the 3,600 that the county holds, because the county doesn't give us any money. The county holds the money, and we pass invoices through to them. So that isn't money that's distributed to us. And then Patterson is one of the towns that holds, I think, $600, and the same for Putnam Valley. And we pass invoices to them in the same manner. But, you know, like I said, I've been speaking to Dr. Orban about the possibility of getting a spay-neuter van to come to the county. I think it would be like a really worthwhile service to offer to people.
Is there a van that you're?
He does have a van.
Oh,
he has a van that he's not currently utilizing right now. So it would be a matter of, you know, guaranteeing him, going off the estimates of what the Taravan used to require, because like I said, we haven't really fully discussed what his break even is. Tara used to require a minimum of 40 cats. So if you take that 40 cats and multiply it by the $75, you're looking at $3,000 for him to be able, you know, to guarantee that that would have to be guaranteed to him. So, you know, I don't know if it's something that you would consider to pay him directly for that, or, you know, just kind of after the people come and we service, if there's any, potentially it would cost the county nothing. I mean, if we filled, if we are assuming it's 40 spots and we were to fill all 40 spots with everybody paying the $75, the county wouldn't even be out any money, you know.
And because have you, in the past, you're a nonprofit, so every budget season is in October. Have you ever asked for any money for your nonprofit?
I've not.
Okay.
I've not.
So that's the time when all the nonprofits come forward and they ask, you know, for an allocation for that. What amount were you thinking that you would need to
initially I really would say, like, just the 3,000 to kind of go, if we ran it biannually, potentially 6,000 in total.
6,000 total. Okay.
6,000 in total, if it even needed to be that.
Okay.
You know, I don't know. It would be a work in progress at this point, because I really don't know how it would land. I don't know how to gauge the interest. I spoke to Michelle at Putnam Humane, like her and I were texting back and forth this morning. She's in support of it. You know, and we would have to advertise it, and you know, hopefully residents would respond. There's just such a need for it. And I speak to people over and over again, and they're just like, you know, the affordability, it's just not there. And the capacity of the vets in the area, is, you know, the vets are busy. Ever since COVID, things changed where, you know, they're constantly busy and they just don't have the capacity to help us because we're not really full paying customers, so they don't, we're kind of second fiddle.
So you, 168 cats in 2024, you've done?
We did.
Okay, so how many feral cats do you think there are? Because, I mean, if you neutered them all, the 168, how did they have?
So we get calls from all different, you know, and the program is only going to be successful as the people who are there. You know, we've had some real difficulties in dealing with certain people who refuse to comply and they don't want to do it. And it's a really sad situation for the cats and for the people and the neighbors that, you know, the neighbors that have to deal with the nuisance of feral cats.
Hi.
Hi.
Question, do you have any data or even a feeling, is the feral cat population increasing or decreasing?
You know, I spoke to Michelle about that too. I was like, what are your thoughts with respect to, have you seen a decrease in your intakes? And she said, yes, we did for a while. She's like, but it's upticking again. And there's a couple of areas that are sort of hot spots where we're not getting cooperation from people. And unfortunately, like the New York State agricultural laws don't really address feral cats. So they kind of fall outside.
No, you have the floor. The chair has recognized me.
Yeah, and the other, do we know of any feral cats cases that have caused rabies?
There was one a couple of years ago in Mayapack where it was like right behind the police station and a feral cat actually attacked somebody and he had to go through the series of rabies. And while working through that, the area with which it was in, whether one of the residents had said, hey, you can place traps here and you can help out.
The reason I was asking is the county pays for rabies vaccines, and it's quite expensive. So there comes to be a balance where is it beneficial to enhance your program versus the people getting the vaccine, which I understand is an extremely uncomfortable process.
Yeah, it is. It
That's
is.
a big problem in bats. I know people are getting the rabies from the bats.
The cats, I mean, we don't see a lot of it, but it has the capacity to be there. And last year we had an issue with one of our actual volunteers that somebody had found a cat on the side of the road that they thought had been hit by a car and it was injured. And the volunteer actually took it in her home and was snuggling with it and holding it, only to find out that she brought the cat over and they were like, the cat has the beginning of rabies and she had to go through the series of shots.
So at this point, like I said, it's not the budget season to ask for money. We could, if the county executive thought that maybe this was necessary, you could allocate a line. So, I mean, that would be something we would have to talk about.
Yep.
So, of course, the reason for the TNR program is to keep the population down.
Yeah.
Of the cats. And did you use all the money from this year yet?
We have, well, not yet, because we're at 76 cats, and a lot of those were funded through us, because as I said, 43 of them were put forth. And I guess, I don't know if everybody realizes that the county will only reimburse the 2 vets that we currently work with.
Right. That is the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. And there's no mechanism to reimburse. And for somebody like Dr. Orban, who's operating out of his clinic, to ask him to wait for a month to get payment for a reduced rate is just, it's not feasible, it's not fair to him. Do you know why that we only pay 2 vets? It's how it was set up, I guess, within the county. They have specific protocols that they have to follow with respect to.
Okay, maybe that can be changed. Maybe that's something to look at also. Okay, before, I just want to ask the committee, do you have any questions or comments?
My comment is that I last weekend, had 2 different constituents come to me about feral cats. So, and I
I'm
haven't.
sorry, what district are you?
Patterson.
Patterson, okay.
And then I also have a friend neighbor who takes care of a colony, TNRs. And
Are they
feeds.
managed? Is it managed?
Yeah.
Meaning, so they're all ear clipped and?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
absolutely. So
Yes.
I know she puts in a lot of time and effort on feeding and
Mhm.
TNR on her own
Yep.
and tries to get donations to do it, so. this
Yeah,
is-
she's always welcome to call us or to call the county, and they refer
Right.
them to us, and, you know, we do what we can to help people. I mean, we currently have, there's currently quite a few areas within the county, and I mean, it's every town. It's Brewster, it's Carmel, it's Mayapack, it's Cold Spring, you know, that they all experience this problem with the feral cats. And, you know, a lot of the lake communities and the more densely populated areas where people tend to move in and out of and are more transient, those are the areas that, you know, we see the need, and they're more problematic.
Legislator Crowley?
Thank you, Chairman Admisio. I know Legislator Russo just brought this up, but do you have a list of like the colony caregivers that, or are there colony caregivers that are like watching over to kind of see if there's progression and things like that, keeping track of it?
Well, usually the people that work with me or that reach out to us and we work with then are there on an ongoing basis. So like, and we also help provide, we'll provide assistance and medication sometimes where necessary. So there's like a lady who reached out to me, I could give an example, in Lake Carmel, who she's had a managed colony for years, and you know, if one of them gets sick or whatever, she'll call and say, hey, can you get me some antibiotics to help with the cat to get them better. So, you know, we try to help out with that as well to improve the quality of life for the cats and for the people that care for them.
Yeah, no, I was wondering just kind of like, you know, so there was a gauge there, like if there's an organizer to kind of figure out, or manager. I know there's also people that feed them that create their own colonies, which I also wanted to bring up too. Is there any sort of, and this is outside of our jurisdiction, but just a question, is there any sort of town code that prevents people from feeding feral cats and kind of creating this issue? I mean, it's probably a really thin line, but it's a question that I ask because you know, that's how it starts,
I think
right?
it's more like the New York State agricultural laws that just don't protect or don't provide for any, you know, like you can't do this or you can't do that. I mean, you know, right away, people who are uncooperative when we go in will be like, well, they're not my cats, I'm just feeding them.
Right, but that's part of the problem.
And that's part of the problem. So until the New York State laws actually change, I don't think unfortunately, you're relying on people to cooperate.
Yeah.
And if people don't want to cooperate, they're not going to cooperate. You know,
Yeah.
we've had situations in one situation in Cold Spring where we went in and we trapped 18 cats at once, and somebody came through and let them all go after
there was
we
a
trapped
large
them
one.
all. And, you know.
did TNR for TNR?
We did TNR, yeah, we
Right.
actually did TNR at a venue.
Mhm.
And the maintenance staff was very cooperative in helping, but one of the people on that maintenance staff who kind of started the problem, it usually comes back to one person. When you really dig and you get into the nuts and bolts of it, it usually comes back to one person who's causing the problem, who for whatever reason doesn't think they should be spay or neutered or doesn't want them, you know, there's tons of reasons, but he actually went through and he let them all go. So I've dealt with other situations like that where we've trapped and then people actually let them go while they're in the traps waiting for pickup. So we've had a lot of successes and we've had some failures. The program's only as useful as the people that we work with. So, you know.
Anyone else have any? Legislator Sage?
Thank you. So the county we have a budget line for the TNR program for, are you a contractor? Are you one of the organizations that we contract out for that budget line? Because we do have a program, we do have a cat program here, Putnam County.
We're part of the feral cat task
Okay.
force, so it's, the county is one side of it, and then we're the not-for-profit, you know, the 501c3, we're the other part. So it's more of like a partnership.
So the county,
Through the health department.
through the health department, contracts out, and then we would contract out to you? Or you're just your own organization?
I'm my
and the
own
county's its own-
organization that I work with the county. So it's like the county will call me and say, hey, we have this person at such and such an address, can you help? And we'll reach out and we'll coordinate with the resident. And then when there's money in that budget, we'll provide, if we provide the service and trap the cats, then the invoices are then passed on through the county
Has
for
them
the
to
county.
Okay, because I know I've seen the budget line and I've seen the stats for that. I wish I had them in front of me tonight because it's so impressive. I mean, and there are stats for the Board of Health, and I
The,
my laptop with me,
what do
so
you
I
mean the
can't look it up.
stats as far as the numbers?
as far as how many colonies, how many,
So since 2012, we've spay and neutered 2,321 cats.
through the county,
No,
or that's
through,
just you, your
through the whole
organization?
program in general, and the county provides, like, the 36.
And that's probably
30
stopped like 22,000 births or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are astronomical, because a
Staggering.
free-roaming male cat can produce up to 1,500
Yeah.
kittens in a year.
It's so impressive. I was stunned when I saw the stats to that. It was like 22,000 cat births that it stopped this particular program.
It's amazing,
just
and
stunning.
it's life-changing for the people that we help.
Right.
I mean, I've helped, and I've touched on different situations, and I had one situation a few years ago where there was a woman in Carmel who she was collecting cats and had them in her house, and they were constantly reproducing. She didn't have the money to pay for it. And we ended up going in, and I think we spay and neutered 14 cats for her, and you know, every once in a while, she'll just reach out to me and she's like, you don't understand how life-changing this was for me, to not have that stress anymore that they're gonna reproduce. And then, you know, going through the TNR process with the cats themselves makes them so much healthier.
Yeah.
Just the males, because intact males constantly fight and they're ripped apart, and then you have people calling the cat's got abscesses and this and that, and once they're spay and neutered, they're vaccinated against rabies, so that's no longer a concern, and then you have them, you know, the bad behaviors are much more diminished. They're not fighting as much, you don't have the injuries to them, and it's just a better overall outcome for the people who take care of them and the animals themselves.
And just one more thing, I'm on the Board of Health, and at our last meeting, we had more rabies cases, not actual rabies cases, but rabies treatments for people. And one of the treatments that we had to provide was for 2 children who came across a feral cat. And I guess they see kitty.
Well, you see a
and they
cat.
get fresh, and they
A lot of
go
times,
through the treatments.
in the beginning of the rabies process, they're just, before they really exhibit signs, I guess, I don't know, like, the whole cycle of it, but the cat becomes very docile. So it would look like, oh, I found this wonderful little kitty on the side of the road, like the example I used before. Let me take it in and let me help it. You don't realize that it's actually the beginnings of rabies, so.
Sometimes in these interactions, of this particular one, they couldn't find the cat.
Yeah,
And so it was I guess.
you have to
They-
assume,
they just
you have
treat
to
it because-
assume that it's.
Yeah, which is scary too.
Yeah, because you can't mess around. I mean,
Yeah.
rabies is always fatal, so it's
Right.
not something that you mess around with. If there's
Yeah.
any doubt at all, you know, unfortunately, in the years, I've been doing this roughly since 2009. I've never been like bitten or scratched or anything. That's, you know, I'm super careful. Doesn't mean that they can't reach out through the cage and get me. One time I had that the other day where a resident had trapped a cat and he was scratched and he was like, I don't know what to do. And we ended up, they were really like, we're not testing the cat, because testing involves euthanizing the cat, testing the brain tissue. So they opted to actually hold the cat in a cage for 10 days, which we helped them set up and got it on their porch. And, you know, they held the cat for the 10 days and no issues, and they simply let the cat go. So.
Now, just, if you could just explain quickly about the van. So if the van would come in Putnam County, what, how many times a year?
Right now, I would say do it biannually.
Okay.
and see it,
So
you know,
2
run
times
it
a year
twice a
you
year
would-
and see how it goes. I mean, it would be a work in progress. I don't know how, I can't, I don't know how it would run. I don't know how successful. I would think it would be successful, judging from one of the groups, Stray Help, that operates the Taravan out of Dutchess County. They can't even service the amount of people that want it.
We could do a trial, we could also do a
Well,
trial.
that's what I
Yeah.
would say.
So do you have a proposal that you could just send to me, or send to the legislature?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
like I said,
please.
I really didn't get into the nuts and bolts of
Right,
it
right.
with him because I wanted to gauge interest
Okay.
first.
Mhm. Right, if you can send that, and that would be good. Anyone else, legislative?
Thank you, Chairwoman. You're on tape, so why don't you give the name of your organization and your phone number? So if someone in the audience watching you on television would want to reach out to you,
Okay.
they'll be able to call you.
Putnam Advocates is the name of our group, and my phone number is 845-519-5052.
That's great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you, probably did. Anyone in the audience?
Nope. All right, well, thank you, everybody,
you.
for your time
Thank
and your
you.
consideration, and
Yes.
I'll put forth a proposal
Yes.
and see where we can go with that. All
Thank
right?
you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night, everyone.
You too. Okay, moving on to number 5 is approval for budgetary amendment 25A-054. That is from the Health Department. This is funds from Nuvance for tick kits. So this is zero fiscal impact, and it's $3,000 that has been submitted for approval. And we need tick kits, because there's ticks all over. They're terrible this year. I think they're worse this year. So this is a budgetary amendment for $3,000, and it will support purchasing tick kits for distribution to the public. Any questions on that? Make a motion to approve. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Seeing there's no other business, I make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?